big money. And all three of the guys are in the same spot that he is in. If we're just saying final year, no guarantees after this year. That was Shakir entering a final year. That was Terrell Bernard. And that was also Greg Rousseau on a fifth-year option. But all three guys got contracts ahead of the final year of their guaranteed money. The Bills have not asked any of those three players to go out and play with no safety net. And I wouldn't say the Bills are asking Cook to do that yet because we don't know what the Bills might have offered.
Right.
But my bigger thing on this is it shouldn't surprise anybody because the two guys that are left, Cook and Benford, are they not the two that have the best claim to being among the best at their position?
Of the five, the group of five?
Of the five.
From the beginning? Those
are the two that could claim, I'm a top five guy, and the other guys don't have any claim to that.
I would agree with that. They have, right, they rank higher at their positions than the others do.
Yes.
I think maybe definitively they do. So the fact that they're the last two to be paid is maybe to speak to that they cost more relative to their position, right? Yeah. Because Shakir did not get much for a receiver. For a slot receiver, yes. And then Bernard did not get a ton by middle linebacker standards, and Rousseau by defensive end stand. $20 million isn't nothing, but it's not very highly ranking amongst defensive ends. Whereas what Cook has been on the record asking for would be the third highest paid running back in the league now, after Barkley's new deal. And Benford, we don't know. But Benford, I think, is the best at any of these positions. So he might be the one that, that's going to be the biggest contract. That's going to be the biggest everything. Guarantees per year, term maybe too. But for Cook, it's more, I think, that what he's asking for is, I want to be paid more than everybody in the league that isn't named Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. And he's good.
Yep.
But it's one, it's paying a running back in the first place, and two, it's paying him probably above what he actually is. He's not, I like him a lot. I think he's a very good runner. He's a great runner. But is he the third most valuable running back in the league? Even if I wanted to pay running backs, I don't think he is.
No, I don't think he is either. Not playing all the downs is a part of it. Maybe he wants more. Maybe, it's the kind of thing where if he played this year, you might really see him commit more to becoming a better pass blocker so he could get on the field more, so he could ask for more. But again, you're doing that and throwing yourself out there without that safety net. So it's kind of chicken or the egg. Does he commit to doing that more so he can get paid? Or does he get paid and then feel like, all right, I can commit to that more? The Bills kind of have to know what kind of guy he is, right? Some guys get paid and take a step forward in what they feel like they're responsible for, and some maybe feel like getting paid is the finish line. So,
well, the reason for him, he would really want to do that about getting paid, sure, like the teams are going to recognize that, but everyone sees your numbers. Everyone sees your numbers. And one thing that maybe holds his receiving numbers in check from not being where McCaffrey's are, McCaffrey's are through the roof, so even maybe 70% of that. What holds that back is you don't play third downs, man. You don't play third downs because Josh Allen doesn't trust you next to you to pick up a block. And now all of those big plays that Ty Johnson made over the course of the year, all those go to Ty Johnson. And if you had been a better blocker, then maybe those would be you, and we'd be talking about, instead of, 1,300 yards from scrimmage, maybe you would have been at 1,700 yards from scrimmage last year. Maybe you would have had 4 more touchdowns through the air. You would be viewed more as the dynamic all-around weapon rather than what I called him, which I think is he's a great runner. I would call him a great runner right now. But the whole complement of his game, to me, isn't what all the other elite backs are.
Isn't it funny he's a great runner when he was drafted kind of to be that third down back and drafted to be the pass-catching back?
Yes.
We wondered if he could carry the load of being the bell cow, and he still hasn't really done that, but very few guys do. The other part of this is, how important is this player to the Bills' offense, where contracts are not just your space in the league, but your value to this team. And the Bills kind of built an offense that made Shakir and Cook really valuable. super valuable, these two. Even Ty Johnson to a point. Like Ty Johnson coming back on a modest contract, but you had some Bills fans worried about whether or not he was going to leave, and that he's back is a bit of a relief. I don't know that you'd feel the same about Ty Johnson as their running back if he's getting all the carries that Cook gets. I don't know. But it's just worth pointing out, the Bills are getting a lot of credit for being proactive, and that's not wrong. They are being proactive, signing all these guys before it comes to their free agency year. You save money when you do that. It is, I would think, much easier as a GM to commit to the middle guys on their contracts than it is on the top guy, outside of a quarterback, right? Like a quarterback, that's going to be easy. Yeah, sure. Here's $250 million guaranteed. You're Josh Allen. You're the MVP. That one's an easy one for us. On Cook, wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall? Is the conversation about the value of the position? Is Bean in there talking with McDermott, and he always wants them to have the threat of running the ball, and they also want to have explosive plays, and Cook gives them both. They have built the best offensive line they've ever had.
Yes.
So
yes, that's part of it.
Right, so how much of his success would they attribute to what they've built around him? Because to me, that is the Eagles' point here, that paying the running back the big money, it might be worth it once you have the rest of the ecosystem in place, because it gives you a different element. If you're a team out there like the Titans or the Texans, whose offensive line is a mess, or the Browns. I mean, I'm trying to think of like the worst offensive lines in football.
Right, not the Browns, but like the Jaguars have been this.
Jaguars, okay.
Jaguars have been this because, I mean, I saw this as an analysis of Travis Etienne the other day, because I think he maybe is a trade idea right now, that he has really bad numbers, but that he just hasn't had blocking his whole career there. Yeah. Like, they've always had a bad offensive line in front of him.
Yeah, and if you don't have the blocking, you're just, you're just going to look like a regular old back. It's the line that, of course, gives you the chance to show what you can do, and that is what happened last year for Cook. He was given the opportunity to get into space, and what happened when he got into space?
He scored.
He ran away from people the whole year.
And that's what's key for me, because to me that would be the biggest thing that differentiates him, is if you're just going to chop off 6-7 yards all the time, and I don't really have a lot of big explosive plays, which to me almost sounds like you're running through those holes, and that's valuable too. Like, you need to have that vision to be able to do it, and not be Trent Richardson, who back in the day would have those holes just run into the back of his offensive lineman. You need that, but if I'm paying you, I'm going to need you to be someone that when you get to the open space, you're going to turn that into something that the replacement level guy isn't. Because the replacement level guy can come in and get those 6-yard runs consistently if your line is that good. And that did happen, right? Like, so we don't really have a lot of sample on this. It was only one game last year, but I do wonder, like, what the Bills would be with just replacement level instead of James Cook. And last year, there was only one game that happened. There was one game that Cook didn't play, and it was the Jet game. And Ray Davis and Ty Johnson combined for 27 touches and 186 yards on those 27 touches. So, remember the first drive of that game? They just ran right down the field on him?
Yeah.
Did they go run, or whatever?
Yeah. How many was that? You say all those touches, how many were catches? Because Josh Allen threw 50-yard passes against the Jets, the running backs.
3 of them were.
Okay.
Although, wait, to your point, one of those catches was a 42-yard Ray Davis catch.
Yeah.
So, right, 40 of the 186 was on one catch by Ray Davis. But whatever, like, they had a game with the replacement level guys, and the replacement level guys did the job. So Barkley does a lot better than what the Eagles guys had been doing before. But remember, like, even the Eagles, how good of an example are they of this? They clearly got more. They clearly got more, and they clearly were helped by having Saquon Barkley. But I still have these other points in my head about, well, he didn't do anything in the Super Bowl, and they still won the Super Bowl, and he wasn't there before, and sure, he helped them, but they were in the Super Bowl 2 years before he got there.
That's right.
They were a great team right up to the moment he got there. So,
but how much of them winning the Super Bowl was the fact that the Chiefs built their entire defensive game plan around stopping him, which they did, and everything else was toast. Like, they couldn't cover A.J. Brown.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah. I saw a breakdown of like one or two Barkley runs, Giants and Eagles, and it really kind of gets to Cook. you might not think James Cook is a top 2 running back. You think he's top 5? He might have a case. A lot of running backs might have a case if given the opportunity to get into space the way that Cook did last year. But I watched a breakdown of, hey, watch Saquon Barkley here against the Giants. See this? He's dead before he starts. But if this offensive lineman doesn't miss his block, it's a 60-yard touchdown because we've seen what he does one-on-one with this safety who's pursuing this angle because the Eagles did that. So it's a little bit like Derrick Henry with the Ravens to me. I know, running backs, careful, don't overpay them. I feel like if you are a team that is a near-complete offense, then you are getting more for your $14 million than you are if trade him to the Titans for a third-round pick. What are the Titans getting out of that guy? They're not getting the same player. And this takes me all the way back, Joe, to the MVP conversation when we would talk about Lamar and Derrick Henry and how could two guys, they have so many yards, Lamar can't be the MVP because of Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. But for me, having Henry makes Lamar more valuable, and having Lamar makes Henry more valuable. You are actually seeing the two of them combine to be overall better than they would be individually. It's like, it's a stack in fantasy football, if you will. That having Cook as a part of this offense, you get more out of him because of the way the offense is built. And if you do pay him $13 million a year, I feel like you would get your returns on that. You would. I'm not afraid of it. I'm just not afraid of it. And again, how about the escalation of the cap? The running back franchise tag was down at $10 million. If that goes up to $15 in 6 years, am I supposed to be still waving the flag for don't pay your running backs? Every other position has gone up 50%.
All right. Well, for me, it's always been more about the term of that running back contract than it has been about the money. But I've said this about Cook, that I don't know if I want to be as worried about it with him because he doesn't have the mileage that some of these guys do when they reach their second contract. Because that really is usually the fear of when guys hit their second contract, it goes away quick. Like, before that contract is over, the guy is shot. And I don't know whether to expect that from Cook. And I don't know what, does that would matter to when they sign it, right? If they signed it this year to a 3-year deal, then maybe you don't see it. But if they wait a year and then they give him a 3-year deal, then, again, like, it happens sometimes overnight for a running back. I still, in theory, like the idea of just replenishing that position with rookie contracts. Not even because, again, it's the money. It's I want the young legs. I want the fresh legs, and I don't want to have to worry at the end of the contract or even the middle of the contract that the guy is, like, this is going to be the year where he doesn't have it anymore.
So you would not pay him?
I wouldn't pay him.
How?
No, I wouldn't pay him.
How married to that would you be? Would you pay him 8? Would you pay him 10?
I don't think...
Because you and I had this bet, we'll get a phone call in here, about you would rather just draft a second-round pick. I'd rather spend that second-round pick on a defensive tackle and just keep the guy that's good and stop... I mean, the Bills have spent
I'd rather pay second than $15 million, maybe, was the comparison.
That's right. Would you rather spend another second or $15 million per year?
Yeah.
And I think I'd rather spend $15 million per year.
I'm telling you,
and get that second pick to potentially be great.
I'm telling you, I almost would say I'd not even want to pay him 8. It almost wouldn't matter to me. And maybe I would be more aggressive on this probably than Bean is. Of just I don't even want to talk to him. Right. I don't want to talk contract. Well, I want you to play final year of your contract and say, thanks, James, you turned into a great player. It didn't start well, and we're going to move on and draft a 3rd or 4th round rookie to replace you. Or maybe we'll just see if Ray Davis can do it.
Right. Maybe 15. I wouldn't do 15. But just make the agent make it look like it's 15 and pay him 6. It's how these contracts work. All right, a phone call here. Dennis in Lockport. Dennis, good morning.
Hey, great show. I'm glad you're talking about it. You know what? I called San Francisco up. Say, you know what, I got a deal for you. We'll give you a Cook. We'd like to have Christian McCaffrey since they're already saying that they would probably trade him. With a win-now attitude, gives Davis and all them some time to develop a little bit more, maybe Moss to develop a little bit more and see what's in the draft behind there. But then you got another guy who can get it done and is not going to go social media nuts on you because of his money. And Buffalo, like McCaffrey once before, we just couldn't get him then. I'd go after him now.
So, what is he getting traded? Is he going to get traded, McCaffrey?
I don't know. I mean, this idea is to get Christian McCaffrey, who has the highest percentage of money committed to him of any running back in football, who is going into this year 29 years old, off a year where both of his legs were injured consistently.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't want any part of McCaffrey myself.
I think so. He had the injury against the Bills, remember, but before that even would be the thing that would spook me is he had Achilles tendonitis in both ankles that just like the day before the season they decided this is too worrisome. We got to shut him down at this age with that. I don't want him. And that's before even really looking at the contract, which looks like you've got 3 years of significant money to go through once you acquire him. Yeah, I'm good. Same thing for me as kind of the Cook conversation, but I'm advancing it even more. Is I'm just waiting for him to show up and not have it anymore, and I think I'm way closer to that with McCaffrey than I would be for Cook.
Yeah, McCaffrey. I
love the player. I mean, even when he came back last year from that Achilles tendonitis, like he looked pretty good, but I don't know. I don't know what he's going to look like when he comes back this year.
Let's even play that out. McCaffrey for Cook. Okay. What's the rest of the deal? Who has to pay more? Am I getting 1 year of McCaffrey?
Right. Well, that would kind of be the exercise, I guess. Is if I'm not paying either one of them. Well, McCaffrey is under contract. I don't know how that would work.
And
if I don't want to pay Cook after this year, would I rather have Cook for this year then, or would I rather have McCaffrey for this year? And even that, I don't think I would probably. I might even say Cook. If I'm only doing 1 year.
If you're just doing it for 1 year, you just keep James Cook and not sign him, and play him on the rookie deal.
Right.
And tell him if you want to go out and prove you can make more, then go for it. You know, your point about how if you're being, and we did talk about this, I also agree with that. I just really wouldn't worry about it. I don't think I have to get it to 15. I might make fair offers. I might not be afraid of making an offer. But, I mean, if I'm giving them Cook and I get McCaffrey, do I get a first-round pick to do it? To take that contract off your books? But then you'd have to re-sign. I can't even wrap my head around what the rest of that idea would be.
No.
And I certainly don't want a 29-year-old guy off a mega-injured season when I can just have my second-round pick on the final year of his deal.
Well, the other thing, too, I'll say lastly on this, is that when saying, like, if I were Bean, what I would want to do is let him play out the final year of his contract and then replace him, whether it's a Ray Davis or like a mid-round pick, or I would figure out another plan for a younger running back that I don't have to worry about when the wheels fall off. The equation to that could change, though, as you get into the spring and he starts through his agent, or whether it's him posting on social media, if he does turn the pressure up on you. It would be easy to sit here and say, I just let him play the last year of his deal if he doesn't make a peep about it. If he just like, all right, yeah, I'm good. I'm under contract. I'm going to play through it. But if he's going to become, a headache's not the right word, but if he's going to make it a big deal throughout the whole offseason and it becomes a distraction even, or if I got to worry about him showing up to training camp, then maybe that would be tougher. I would admit that would be tougher for the GM to go through not talking to him at all if the guy is like pushing the whole way through.
Yeah. 803-0550. Dennis, thanks for the phone call. 1-888-550-2550. Sal, top of the hour on the Kaiir Elam trade, which the Bills save money on the cap and move up in this draft. Not bad, from the 6th to the 5th. So they have a bunch of 5th-round picks, and their draft capital remains pretty loaded. Kaiir Elam off to the Cowboys. He posted a really nice, classy kind of goodbye message, thanking people here, saying, we should pull it up. I don't want to paraphrase. I want to make sure I get it right. So we'll get you that and much more. Sal coming up at 8. Kevin Price, PGAtour.com at 9. And I also have someone that claimed they were present. Yesterday we talked about the Chris Pronger bar fight in Buffalo in 1994.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I had somebody write to me and say, I was there. I can tell you exactly what happened. So
wow.
We might do that.
Okay. Story time from a 94 bar.
Yeah, just take us back to 1994 when Chris Pronger got in a fight in a bar here. So that might come in the 9:30 segment as well. 803-0550 on WGR.
Bills making some moves yesterday, trading Kaiir Elam to the Dallas Cowboys. They saved $2.5 million roughly on the cap by making that trade. They also get a 5th-round pick this year and a 7th-round pick next year. They had to include a 6th, though. So they trade up 1 round this season, and then they get a 7th next year. To some of their free agent signings, Demar Hamlin is back with the Bills on a 1-year deal, $2 million. Also, they've signed Derek Forrest, depth safety, who started 17 games for Washington over the last 4 years. Sabres lose last night 7-3 against the Detroit Red Wings. Josh Norris scored his first goal as a Sabre. The bench was almost empty by the end of the night as there were a bunch of scrums at the end of the game. They were handing out misconducts. Sabres lose 7-3. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
Tage Thompson backhands it in behind the net. Sabres looking to center. They do, scores! What a play to get that puck to the front of the net. And the Buffalo Sabres, as Norris got a stick on that one, his first in a Buffalo uniform, and it's 3-2 Detroit.
Dan Dunleavy on the call. One of the Firth moments of the game, brought to you by Firth Jewelers. For all the moments in your life, go forth to Firth. Josh Norris, his first as a Sabre. They were down in this game, rallied back a little bit to make it close, and then Detroit pulls away late. Really far away late. 7-3, the final score. Jeremy and Joe, good morning. Happy Thursday. Going to get a little warmer today as we get started with the start of the Players' Championship, and also NFL free agency and all that. Kaiir Elam. I mentioned, I want to get this before we get to our goaltender talk here. Elam tweeted out a nice message. Appreciate so many great people and supporters I've had the opportunity to meet in Buffalo. Very special and unique place that's helped a 20-year-old kid from South Florida grow more into a man. I'm still determined to be the best, but first the man God has called me to be. So he goes on to Dallas, gets an opportunity to maybe get in the mix there. It never worked out for him here, of course, and I'm sure Brandon Bean will be asked about what happened, what went wrong. But Elam, I don't know, Joe. He's got ability. He might stick in the league for a couple of years, and he might actually find himself as a starter in a system that maybe fits him the way that he intends.
I kind of want to predict that it will turn around for him. That he is. What was he with the Bills? He did take the ball away when he was out there. Like I was digging into some of the numbers that I had looked up from previous years about Elam, and like all his numbers are identical to Christian Benford coming into this past season. So they're not updated from his last 4 starts, and that would probably impact a lot because he was horrible against the Chiefs, right, in the AFC Championship. But going into 2024, he had a better target rate than Benford. He was targeted less. He had a better yards when he was targeted, yards per target. He had a better missed tackle percentage. He had double the interceptions per time he was targeted than Benford did. He took half the penalties per snap than Benford did. Like when he was out there, for the first 2 years at least, it actually went good. But they clearly didn't trust him, and it looked like all the things they would have been worried about were on display in the AFC Championship. But when I watched Elam, this was the Pittsburgh playoff game where one play he gets beat, and then the next one he jumps the route again and he makes an interception. And I actually have mentioned the Cowboys as like the perfect spot for him. They've asked their corners, whether it's Trayvon Diggs or the other guy who led the league in picks last year, whose name's escaping me. Their guys are like, jump the route. Take risk, be a ball hawk, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I think that's very different from the system he was just playing with the Bills. So I feel like he kind of went to the perfect team.
803-0550. Sal, top of the hour to talk about this with us. Joining us, meanwhile, is Owen Parker, our senior goaltending correspondent. The game last night was a rough one for the Sabres, to the point where we thought we're going to have to talk to our goaltending correspondent with our segment as a goalie. Owen's in studio in my chair. What kind of jacket we got going on there?
It's just a little Columbia sweater from the birthday.
All right.
It's one of my favorites. It's a little flashy. So
well, Owen, in the bullpen in the chat, there was a little bit of a you can't blame UPL for a game like that. The defense was so bad. So, as a goalie, can you?
Yes, is the easy answer there. I mean, there's always going to be ways to blame anybody you want to in hockey. It's such a, there's so many mistakes in the game. It's a game of mistakes, right? That's what everybody says. So you can always find a way to say whoever's fault it is whatever you want to say, you can say. However, I think objectively, if you look at a game where you get 29 shots on goal against and give up 7 is not good ever, no matter what the situation is defensively. I think a really good example of that is on that third goal, the Kane power play goal. You watch McLeod at the start of that play as the puck gets bumped up to the point. Kane kind of flies up to the blue line, drags McLeod up with him, and McLeod gets caught jumping ahead of him. Kane cuts in front, and there's a really bad play from McLeod on the kill. He gets behind the play, he lets Kane in ahead of him. Yep. He's got a lane right at the net. But you look at UPL on the play, and he's completely guessing. Yes. You watch him drop into the middle of his net. Kane just shoots it short side, gets right by him because UPL's overthinking the play. And so I think that's a good microcosm of how this can go, where you can find a defensive play from McLeod where he chases out of the zone. He's thinking Tuck's going to bump one to him. He might have a chance for a breakaway shorthanded. Yep. Kane beats him back to the net, but UPL still makes a pretty significant mistake in giving Kane that whole short side. And I think that kind of exemplifies where he's at. He hasn't been able to bail them out of those spots this season, whereas maybe at the latter half of last year, you were seeing him make a few more of those saves.
Forgive me for forgetting which goal this was. You mentioned the King goal. What's the one where is there one where he's playing the pass? Is that the one you're talking about?
Exactly. It's the
short side goal because it looks like he's kind of hung out, and he, like you said, that's the one where you're saying he's guessing.
Absolutely. You can see if you watch it again, you'll see it. A good way to see it is if you focus on his head, where it goes from in his stance, he drops and it shifts to the middle of the net because he's guessing on that pass back door instead of just play the shot straight up, let your guy get back and try and take away that lane for the pass. That shot needs to be your primary concern every time as the goaltender in that play.
The classic textbook outside-inside move that DeBrincat put on Dahlin, is that one where we want to save after the fact? Because, like you said, that's one where I could even go to Dahlin and say, you can't let him turn you outside-inside like that.
Yep.
But the wrist shot comes from the high slot.
Yeah, it's a really good play by DeBrincat to get to that space and get a shot off. And it's a smart shot to go back across the grain. Yeah. But as UPL there, you're worried about getting ahead of the play. And that's what happened to him is DeBrincat's flying down and he makes that quick, sharp turn, and UPL just gets a tick ahead of him. And that's where that, again, short side, blocker side, he's cheating to the glove and just gets a hair ahead of that play. And that's why he's getting beat on that short side again on that play.
Yeah. The goaltender interference challenge, by the way, that was never going. That was a bad challenge, right?
I mean, you never know nowadays in the NHL. I mean,
I don't know that I ever saw definitive proof that he actually, he got stopped from getting out to the post. He put his glove out, or was it his blocker? But either way, he's trying to stop the puck, and his glove or blocker doesn't hit power.
Yeah, I don't know what they were looking for there. It looks just like UPL just got a little hamstrung by power being in that space, but that's not anything you can really do anything about.
That, by the way, everyone was after power after that.
Yeah, that's tough.
Microcosm of what he's criticized for, where he's 6'6", and he's getting bodied in the crease by Dylan Larkin, who's 6 inches shorter than him.
Yeah, I'm a big power fan, but last night was a bad night for him.
All right. Thanks, Owen.
No problem. Thank you,
Back
guys.
to running the stream and moderating the chat. The YouTube chat, I had somebody write in, like, what do you guys talk about the bullpen, the chat? It's the chat that goes on during the YouTube stream. And when you're in studio to give us as a goalie, they know that, like, the teacher left the room, and they're talking like, we got to go nuts, guys. Owen's not moderating.
What they don't know is there's a substitute teacher watching over them from afar.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes,
Okay.
I've got my partner in crime, Josh
is there.
in the
Good.
control room.
They thought they were free. They thought the door was open. The chat thought they could go nuts right now.
Also, speaking of the chat, look at Deuce Dog watching and in the chat from Sawgrass right now. Says he's at the Players. Golf course is in absolute awesome shape. And he's in the chat. Look at this guy.
I've never been to Augusta, and I might never go to Augusta, so I can't speak about the beauty of Augusta. But Sawgrass, the shape that course is in for this tournament, I mean, you can't even believe that grass can be this perfect, and that bunkers can be this perfect. There's some holes that have sand all up one side, and there's water. I mean, it's just... When we were there playing, I asked the caddy, because there's a lot of greens that are raised and, like the retaining wall there is right on the water. I asked the caddy, how often do people fall into the water? Because you could be on a green reading a putt and back up a couple more feet back, and then just fall in the water. And the caddy said once a week somebody falls in the water.
Wow.
Reading a putt. Anyway, somebody's going to putt off a green today or tomorrow or sometime this week, hopefully. It's a great tournament, All right, thanks, Owen. Sal, top of the hour, Riverfront Auto Sales, pick of the week when we return here on WGR. Jeremy White here for FanDuel Sportsbook, official partner of WGR. When it comes to FanDuel, you can, of course, take advantage of their Dog of the Day promo. That's right. It's the Dog of the Day promo from FanDuel Sportsbook. Go to FanDuel.com/white, and you have the opportunity to jump in on a profit boost token with the Dog of the Day. So pick your underdog. The odds got to be plus 100 or more, but that's it. With March, you get college basketball going, conference tournaments, and, of course, the big one as well. So jump in on your underdog idea, and FanDuel Sportsbook will give you a profit boost token just to do that. So March, a good time to jump in. Conference tournaments, big tournament, whatever it is. FanDuel.com/white for that profit boost token. Visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook today. Back your dog of the day with that profit boost, because, after all, anything can happen in March. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Wager of at least plus 100 odds required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com for help with a gambling problem. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Time for the pick of the week. It's brought to you by Riverfront Auto Sales. And the pick of the week is going to be a 2014 Chevy Camaro two-door coupe LT, sleek, stellar white, eye-catching black leather interior. This spring, you'll turn heads wherever you go. Weather warms up, you get an opportunity to, drive a fast car, look cool. Don't miss, this Camaro won't last long. Visit Riverfront Auto Sales today, 1379 Niagara Street, and test drive the amazing 2014 Chevy Camaro two-door coupe. Drive into spring in style. 716-886-1626, online at riverfrontautosales.com. Should my pick of the week be this, my friends? Here's my bag tag for you, Joe, of TPC Sawgrass. I showed this before. The Players' Championship could very well be your pick of the week, right? It's a good pick?
Yes.
I'll lift it up. Look
Absolutely.
At that. You get your bag tag. They put your name on it and everything. It's quite nice. It's that, or it's going to be Aaron Rodgers walking on the beach. You decide.
Oh, my! It's such a manufactured photograph, right?
Aaron Rodgers walking on the beach.
Happens to be AirPods. He's got the blanket wrapped around him, and veering off into the sunset to decide what I'm so fake.
How many times?
This guy's so fake.
How many times
Aaron
have
Rodgers.
you in your life walked with a blanket?
On the beach or just in general?
You might need one on the beach. It gets breezy.
No, I haven't done that. What I have done, been doing this winter because the basement gets cold, and that's where my PlayStation is. If I'm playing down there, I'll wrap the blanket around my shoulders while I'm sitting there playing.
A shawl.
Yeah, but that's
you're playing PlayStation with a shawl on.
Basically,
you're just dominating me in college football while wearing a shawl.
Hey, I don't think we've played since I beat you like 85-20.
It was pretty rough. It was.
We could go again. We could go again if you want. We'll stream it tonight.
Tonight? It's not impossible.
Minus. What would the line be?
I mean, you got to be somebody bad.
Minus 26.5.
Joe is one of these guys. Bad? You play him online, you're going to rage quit. I mean, it's rage quit. It's 4th and 6 at his own 19. He's going for it. He's got the play.
Oh, I played my. This is why I shouldn't be trusted to be. Not that anyone would be like a real coach, because I played my buddy the other day. 4th and 19 on my own 26. Bam, 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah, right.
Let's go.
Last time we played, you got a 80-yard Hail Mary touchdown at the gun that really changed the momentum. It was nonsense. All right, Sal Capaccio coming up here on WGR. Jeremy White here for Wayland Brewing. If you're craving a good time, boy, today might be a good time to go to Wayland Brewing. Wayland delivers always. And when it comes to, the beautiful weather coming, highs today into the upper 40s, 50 maybe, and great outdoor space at Wayland as the weather continues to get better. Their space grows because first off, you got the indoor tap room, 18,000 square feet to grab a beer, grab a bite. Kids eat free on Mondays. Fish fry Fridays, not bad. Available all day, takeout until Easter for the Fish Fry Fridays. There's always something going on at Wayland, whether it's the Kids Eat Free Day or on weekends. They've got music. There's a Killers cover band hitting Wayland Hall on April 4th, so you can grab tickets for that. The Bocce League starts next month as well. Fresh beer, fresh food, lots of spaces, whether you're having a corporate event in Wayland Hall or a wedding or a shower or a fantasy football draft or a beer tasting, anything. At Wayland, every event's a celebration. It's 3740 North Buffalo Street in Orchard Park. Look for the beers out and about. I've been seeing them more and picking them up. The Super Deluxe and the Case Study are two of my favorites. And when it comes to, a spot to go, bring the family, bring the friends, bring a huge event. Wayland Brewing, 3740 North Buffalo Street in Orchard Park. Wayland Brewing. Find your way to great beer.
New league year in the NFL. The Bills making some additions yesterday. Get to that in a moment. But first, they traded away Kaiir Elam to the Dallas Cowboys. They get a 5th and a 7th. Send a 6th with Elam, so essentially move up around this year and grab a 7th at the end of next year. We'll talk about it with Sal Capaccio. Coming up next, Demar Hamlin back on a 1-year deal, $2 million. The Bills also adding another safety, Derek Forrest, who started 17 games for the Commanders over 4 years. Elsewhere in the NFL, Chargers bring back Mike Williams, 1-year deal worth $6 million. The Jets let go of longtime linebacker, 5-time Pro Bowler C.J. Mosley. He reportedly could retire, 32 years old. He's now available, though, for the rest of the league. Russell Wilson traveling to Cleveland for a visit with the Browns. Cooper Kupp released yesterday. Mike Garafolo says Kupp has significant interest and that he could have a new home by today. That does not sound like the case for Aaron Rodgers, who, unsurprisingly, is reportedly going to take his time to decide between the Giants and the Steelers. There's also a rumor the Vikings could be in it, too. And the Sabres were in action last night, a 7-3 loss to the Red Wings. Josh Norris scored his first goal as a Sabre. Patrick Kane had 5 points, passes Gilbert Perreault on the all-time scoring list in the NHL. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. Sal Capaccio joins the show now on the Westher Hotline as we are into the new league year in the NFL. Before we get to football, I was actually just looking at this, Sal. I think you'd be good at this. Did you hear me in the update just mentioned? So Kane passes Gilbert Perreault last night on the all-time scoring list in the NHL.
Did I see something last night where did TNT spell Gilbert Perreault's name wrong?
Oh, did they?
I thought I saw someone say that. I didn't see the graphic, but it is possible. Anyway, that's totally here nor there. Yeah. But so I do know something happened with him, and now I know because you said that. Go ahead.
I'll have to go back and look because that would be that'd be pretty tough. I think that's a quick Google search to figure that one out. There are 3 former Sabres though that are still above Kane on the all-time scoring list. Think you can name them?
So Kane is third and all-time scoring in NHL history?
35th in all-time scoring in NHL history.
I see what you're saying.
He passed Perreault last night, but there are still 3 players that played for the Sabres that are above him.
Well, Dave Andrechuk's got to be one.
Dave Andrechuk is one, yeah.
3... I'm thinking if they played long time for the Sabres, Pat LaFontaine's going to be one.
He is not above him. I think injuries would be why, just below.
Yeah, didn't have enough of a career, I guess.
I would say they're not guys that would necessarily be remembered as Sabres. One guy for sure that is not true. I could just give him to you if you want.
No. Could I say, is Pierre Turgeon on the list?
Nope, just below. That's really close, though. He would have passed him this year.
Yeah, not Rick Vive. He wouldn't be.
No. One is early 90s, and the other is black and red.
And they played for how long?
They played for the Sabres one for a couple years, the other for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank right now only because but I'm sure I know the names.
Dale Hawerchuk.
Dale Hawerchuk.
Dale Hawerchuk.
You're right. I think I share a birthday with Dale Hawerchuk, by the way. Rest in peace, obviously.
And then
he passed away a couple of years ago.
And then someone that's definitely not remembered as a Sabre, but Doug Gilmour would be
Doug Gilmour.
One.
Oh, when I said Rick Vive, I was thinking along those lines too.
Yep.
Doug Gilmour. Yeah, really fantastic player, obviously, and I do. Dale Hawerchuk and I both April 4th we shared birthdays.
All right. Well, we're into the new league year, Sal, and before we get to the things that actually happened yesterday, should I be surprised or care at all that like some of these signings that the Bills have made or haven't been made official?
No. I think because you've been jaded in the past, maybe by J.D. McKissick or something like that. No, generally what happens is the Bills wait until the player gets here to actually physically sign the contract, and then they'll announce it. If that makes sense, right? So, they could say we've agreed, and teams have done that, but my guess is you'll get guys flying to Buffalo today to actually sign their contracts, or if not tomorrow. And, that's why. So I wouldn't be worried about anything.
Okay, and then you'd get a flood of media availability and whatnot.
Which could happen today, by the way. I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but we were actually, I was on a text thread with my media friends last night, like, hey, do we know when this is happening? It's always just the team, and rightfully so, like, you got to get guys here. Like, you don't know their travel schedule. Then when they get here, they got to sign the contract. They got to go through things. So then they'll let us know when that time period is coming, and we'll meet with some of these guys.
Sal Capaccio with us on the Western Hotline. So two of the things that we did learn about yesterday, Sal, and one thing that was made official was the Kaiir Elam trade to the Cowboys. Let's start with what they actually do here, where I'm kind of surprised that they even got anything, because I don't know, Sal, I would have thought the other team had all the leverage. You're actually kind of doing the Bills a favor cap-wise by making this trade with them.
For sure. Listen, I mean, the best part about this deal is the fact that the Bills got Kaiir Elam's most of his salary off their salary cap, because even if, what people have to realize is, I heard a lot of people say, just cut him, and that's fine. They could do that, but there was no money saved there. Whether he was on the roster or off the roster, meaning cutting him, Kaiir Elam was going to count $4.3 million in the salary cap for the Bills. It's the fourth year of a guaranteed rookie contract. That's how it works. By trading him, they actually saved $2.5 million of that, and they're going to eat about $1.5 million. It's rougher, 1.8, I think. But either way, so I mean, that's just a right there is something that really helps. And then you factor in that, Joe, they're moving up. They're moving up in this year's draft by a round. They gave up a 7th rounder next year, 2026, to do it. But I mean, who really cares about that at this point, right? I mean, they're moving up in this year's draft by doing this as well. And you say, well, why would Dallas do that? Well, you don't know. I mean, when guys are coming out of the draft and there's evaluations done and coaches and GMs say, we really like this guy, and then another team takes him, they keep tabs on him. They say, he'd be better for us. He'd be better in our system. And who is I think, isn't Matt Eberflus now in Dallas? Isn't he the Cowboys defensive coordinator?
I believe that's right. Yes.
And I think, my guess would be when Eberflus was, I guess at the time, the Colts, right? He probably liked Kaiir Elam. And maybe he went to the Cowboys and said, hey, there's a guy that I could put in my system. They do run a lot of zone, which doesn't make a ton of sense. Like he does. But either way, you get the point. Like, that's how these things work. So obviously the Cowboys are getting a guy that was drafted in the first round. He's actually made plays, as you've pointed out many times. He's actually made plays when he's been on the field. But we all know, Joe, it just hasn't gone well for him here. Yeah. And this was a swing and a miss by the Buffalo Bills 3 years ago. And, we could all say he's been a bust for the Bills, but at this point, at least they're getting something for him and shedding some salary cap, and you move on. And good luck to Kaiir Elam, and I hope it works out in Dallas because it didn't here.
Yeah, I think the last game really kind of shows what maybe the Bills had seen in practice for a long time, Sal. Because for me, like, seeing him on the field when we do and looking at the numbers, and I pointed out that even this morning I looked it up, that going into 2024, all his numbers were like identical to Benford. Like how often he was targeted, how well he did when he was targeted. He didn't take more penalties. He actually had more picks. But it was always, well, they clearly don't trust him for a reason. And then what did we see in the AFC Championship? It was, holy cow. Like I think people were shouting from the mountaintops, like, can we see Jamarcus Ingram out there, because it was going so poorly.
Yeah, you're right, and I would say this. I think that game, after 3 years, it's one thing to have a bad game, especially at the end of a season, and, it's kind of in front of everybody, but after his career and then having that game, I just don't know how you could bring him back anyway, if that makes sense, right? Like, everybody sees it, where his career's been at that point, whether it's, and I'm not saying his teammates don't love him, but I think that at that point you have to say, it's very hard to bring him back. And after that is out there and people see it after the way it's gone for 3 years on top of that. So I've always felt, and you know this, we've talked about it, I've always felt Brandon Beane would look to trade him this year. And the biggest reason for me wasn't just because a lot of it was you could save some money. But for me, it was you can't have him on the roster going into his fourth year, because at the end of this year, you're getting nothing for him anyway. So really, that was the choice. The choice was either you find a trade partner or you cut him and you eat $4.3 million, or you have him on your roster for $4.3 million, and then he leaves and you get nothing for him anyway. So none of the options were great, except this was the best one, and that's what they achieved.
What do you think happened? Like, why don't you think that it worked? I think there's always been talk about scheme and maybe even like kind of the boomer bust nature of his game. We saw that, remember in the Pittsburgh playoff game where on back-to-back plays he takes a pass interference that sets up the Steelers' 1st and goal, and then he picks off the next play. Like isn't that kind of a microcosm of his career where you just never knew what you were going to get play to play? Is that the biggest reason you think that it just didn't work here?
It's a real good question, Joe, and I'm going to tell you. I've talked with people in the organization about this who will tell you that they love Kaiir Elam, and they're also, over the last few years, they've also wondered. Like, I don't think anyone really knew or understood like why it didn't work out, because here's why. When I say that, everybody I've talked to will say the same thing. He works his tail off. And he's a great kid, and he wants to win. He wants to be great. He works hard. He does everything that's asked of him. But for some reason, it just doesn't translate. And I think that's been a big mystery, too. Yes, I think scheme was partly it. But, Joe, even when they went man-to-man, which is what his more strong suit is, It didn't go great for him, right?
Right.
I mean, even
Calvin Ridley,
I think
remember?
they did.
Calvin
Ridley.
Ridley.
Yeah, Calvin. I was going to bring that up. Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Right? Last year in the AFC Championship game. So we could throw out scheme all we want. Well, even when they went to a scheme that's more suited for him, it didn't go well for him. But I think there's been a mystery even in a wondering, even in the organization, of like, why hasn't it translated? Because he's done everything right. He's done everything they asked him to do. They've brought him along like they do every other player. And, obviously it just it didn't. So it's a great question. I'm not sure. Is it going to work? I would say generally with players like that, I wish him well, but I can't see 2 years from now people going, oh my God, he turned into Wyatt Teller after a trade. Yeah. I just usually that doesn't happen with players like that.
Yeah, maybe he finds a way to stick in the league, but I agree. I wouldn't think there's like some top end upside still with him. It is funny that the way corner is, both kind of how it's gone, Sal, and where it is right now, because I think most would agree it's the biggest need or biggest hole on the team right now. That if I'd gone back in time to when they drafted Elam and told you, hey, Tre'Davious White is going to have another like career-defining injury that's going to end his Bills career, and Elam is going to be a complete and utter bust, you might have thought the Bills were going to be nowhere at corner. And man, getting Benford in the 6th round and developing him has kind of saved them at that position for the last couple of years. We're really like, I mean, this is kind of how it's been labeled. I think it's fair that it kind of evened out, right? Like Benford has been every bit as good as you would have hoped Elam would have been in the 1st round. Yeah,
it's always this, like I see the Brandon Beane detractors, and I'm not going to defend him on Kaiir Elam. This was a miss. Like this was a bad pick by the Bills overall. Like he just did not work out. It was a 1st rounder that you got nothing out of, that you're going to have to move on from. But it's funny when I read the hardcore Brandon Beane detractors who are always willing to tell you about his misses, don't bring up he actually found what could be one of the best in the league in the 6th round, right? Yes, those things even out, no doubt about it. And really, the Brandon Beane and the Bills staff have been better, really overall, drafting in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round than they have in a lot of ways in the 1st or 2nd round. Although, hey, 2nd rounder James Cook, 2nd rounder Osiris Torrance, I think you got to give him credit for a lot of that as well. But you're right, those things can even out sometimes, and they do. And if you can find a gem, if you can find a really good player later in the draft, that can help you obviously balance out a miss earlier in the draft. The draft is a lot of times a crapshoot. It's not just the team. It's not just the GM. It's not just the scouting staff. It's the player as well. A lot of times you make the right call. I remember years ago, Joe, do you remember the Bills drafting offensive lineman Mike Williams? Do you remember him? Were you too young?
No, that is like one of the first drafts that I can kind of remember. Yeah.
And listen, you could say that Bryant McKinney was the better pick. I get that. No one questioned, though, drafting Mike Williams. Everyone thought he'd be great in the league. And the guy ate himself out of the league, essentially, right? I mean, sometimes you just don't know. There's nothing you can do about it. And, like, in this situation, you draft Kaiir Elam. He's got all the things that you like about him and his traits. Maybe it wasn't the best scheme fit, and you can definitely say that. But for some reason, it didn't work out. Yes, you're right about Benford. I would say, though, the miss on Elam has had a pretty good ripple effect on the corner position, and thankfully they do have Benford, because the miss on Elam, let's think about it. They had to go out and trade for Rasul Douglas, right? Now we're sitting here today and going, who is the starting corner opposite Christian Benford. So over the last few years, they've kind of had to piece that together because the domino effect of missing on a guy that you take so high at such a critical position, that's what happens now.
Do you feel like, by the way, while we're on corner, that every day that passes here since the legal tampering window opened on Monday, that it becomes more and more likely that Douglas might just come back on like a one-year deal? Like if they want to have a veteran corner somewhere on the team, which when you think they want at least one guy that's kind of been like a regular player in the league, like Douglas is at the moment one of the higher rated guys that's left. I mean, Stephon Gilmore, I guess, is still out there, but you're kind of in the the lower levels of what the free agent class was that's left.
Yes, the longer this goes on, the more I think that could happen. Haven't heard anything about that. Could come out, at some point that he signs with the Bills or he signs with another team. Haven't heard much on his front. But yes, the longer it goes on, the more I think, okay, you could wind up seeing Rasul Douglas back. The question I would still have, though, Joe, is he the starter right away? Mm-hmm. You could pencil him in, but are they drafting over him, let's say? Are they drafting someone who they feel that can compete for a starting job? Are they still signing another corner? He didn't have a great 2024. Not what he had at the back end of 23 when they traded for him. He could still come in and be a quality starter, and maybe he has a bounce-back year, too, and that's great. But, yeah, I think that the longer it goes on, there's more of a chance for that because what do they have right now? All they have is Benford and Ingram. That's it on the outside. Well, Daquan Hardy to Corey Couch, really more slot guys. Although I will say Daquan Hardy did play a lot more outside in preseason and camp last year than a lot of people thought. He's just smaller. To Corey Couch is more of a slot guy. He can play outside too. I think he's a bit of a guy who can do both. But either way, that's all you have. It's Benford and Ingram right now. So they have to address it. It's a real critical spot right now, and one that I think that at some point we're going to get a signing. Or we're going to go into the draft and go, oh, my God, like they have to really grab one early. And what you don't want to do is kind of like what happened in 2022, which is I think we all knew they needed a corner, right? And everybody knew it. It was like it was the worst kept secret, going into the draft that they were going to target a corner. And there were some really good ones in that draft. And then the Chiefs traded up for Trent McDuffie, come down. The Bills trade up for Kaiir Elam. This is why I always say you don't draft for need. I'm not saying the Bills didn't have Elam graded highly. I think they did. But they also really needed a corner. And you don't want to put yourself in a corner, no pun intended, to just take something that you need. You want to be able to have flexibility to say, if that's not the guy that we want, then we don't need to take the position because then you could have that ripple effect. So yeah, I do think that the longer it goes on, I think that about a Russell.
I would totally want to bet right now on like Douglas and like a second round rookie competing in training camp, or maybe it could be first round too, depending on the board goes. Sal Capaccio with us on the Western Hotline. So from corner to safety, Sal, how surprised were you that they ended up bringing back Demar Hamlin? We have the numbers now, right? 1 year, $2 million. So it's not like it's a lot of money or anything, but he's back.
Right. So I was surprised because, as you know, I've said I did not expect Demar Hamlin to be back with the Buffalo Bills. Just listening the way that Brandon Beane talked about him and giving him a lot of love and always saying, we love Demar, but it's got to be at the right price. It's got to work for both sides. Then Demar changes representation a couple of weeks ago, his agent. That just all kind of added up to me that he's going shopping. He's looking for a better situation where he can maybe be a starter where he was in Buffalo, but it looks like Cole Bishop is kind of on track to be that guy next year. Maybe looking get a little bit more money, his second contract, obviously. But then, Joe, when I see the money come out last night, he comes back on $2 million. That tells me there just wasn't a market for him. I mean, that's not a lot of money. Think about it for a second. Just erase the name. Don't even think about the name. Don't think about the player for a second. If I told you a starting safety who just completed his 4th year, he's only going to his 5th year, and he's still young, and he's a regular starter on a team that went to the AFC Championship game last year, went to the free agent market, there's no way you'd think it's only $2 million to go somewhere. It just doesn't make sense. So I think that the market kind of held what a lot of people think about Demar, which is, nice player, can come in and he can be a higher floor guy for us because he's going to do his coach, but not the kind of player we're going to bring in to change our defense. And, then you get to that, probably not as much of a market. And Demar loves Buffalo. Buffalo loves Demar. The coaching staff loves him. And what have I always said about safety, Joe? This is the one position, especially over all others on this team. The Bills love to have veterans who know the system. They love to have veterans who know the system at safety. That's big reason why Demar Hamlin started last year over Cole Bishop. And a lot of it was Bishop and his injury, but they trusted. It's about trust at this position, and he comes back and he'll compete for a job again.
And then the other signing they make, Derek Forrest, reported signing. Derek Forrest, formerly of Washington. What do you know about him? And I mean, could that be it for them at safety? Where if it's Bishop and Rapp's the plan, they'll have other bodies in there competing. But could you see it opening the season with Hamlin and Forrest are backing up Rapp and Bishop, and that's it?
I could, yeah. You have Cam Lewis too as a backup.
Cam Lewis, thank you.
He's mainly a nickel corner backup, but as you know, he does play safety, and he played quite a bit last year at safety actually because of the injuries they had. So right now they have 5. Rapp, Bishop, Hamlin, Lewis, and now Derek Forrest. Yes, could I see that being the main core that they go to camp with outside of a few bodies they maybe grab at the end of free agency or in the draft or undrafted free agency? Yes. I've never believed that this team was going to go out and get a big-time safety and pay big-time money. It's just, again, I'll go back to it's not how they operate at the position. When have they ever done that? The highest guy they've drafted is Cole Bishop, and every free agent they brought in, other than the very first year with Micah Hyde when they paid him money, they've never paid a guy to come in here, Joe, ever. Because that's not what they do at this position. They love guys that they trust, guys that they can develop, guys that they can bring in and, understand the system, because it's such a key spot and it takes a long time in this defense. So I just don't think. If they went out today and we found out that they spent big money in the safety, I would be very surprised. I just don't think it's anything that I've ever thought that they would do. It doesn't mean that they don't have guys out there that could come in and still compete, because you're going to have injuries and things like that. So I do think that they're probably done, at that position for the most part going forward. Oh, you asked me about Derek Forrest. So Derek Forrest is he's kind of he's a lot of ways the opposite of Demar Hamlin from what I've seen. I'm not super familiar with his game, but I know a little bit, and I did some digging and research and watched him, read about him a little bit, heard what Commanders fans said and media said about him. And basically what I gather is this is more of a higher ceiling guy, but he's going to make mistakes. He's kind of more of a he's going to get to the party in a hurry. And he's going to make a decision. He's going to go. Sometimes it's going to not be the best decision, though, if that makes sense, right? Like, it's more of a boom or bust guy when it comes to a safety. But, man, the booms can be great, and they can be game-changing plays, but the busts can also glare and stick out to you. I think this is a guy that really contributes on special teams and, helps in that regard, because he really screams like that. But it's certainly a guy that I think that you put him in the system, and if you can kind of rein him in a little bit, maybe he does compete for a starting job.
And then let's get to defensive line, Sal. Larry Ogunjobi, yesterday, defensive tackle, 1 year, $8.3 million was the report. Up to 10, $8 million guarantee. Kind of interesting, kind of like Bosa, where it's not like it's a crazy amount of money, but the guarantee number was pretty close to what the worth up to is. So on Ogunjobi, sounds like maybe someone that's more the penetrating type and not the we've talked about like the big giant space eater 3 technique, right? That would be kind of next to an Ed Oliver, or do I have that backwards? 1 technique versus 3 technique.
He is a 3 technique, and let me explain what it means for everybody. When you hear these words in football, it's really the odd numbers that count, but there's a lot more numbers. But it's the 1 technique is basically over the center, like a nose guard, a little bit to the left or right, but that's basically it. The 3 technique is over the guard, over the shoulder, and the 5 technique is over the tackle. So it's 1-3-5 going from center, and whether that's left or right, you go 1-3-5 one way, 1-3-5 the other way. So when people say these words, that's what they mean. And the Bills generally, having a 3 technique is someone that really kind of controls that area, and they can be a penetrator. You can have a lot of different kind of your best 3 techniques. They're very, very hard to find. Aaron Donald's of the world, right? I think Warren Sapp was mostly a 3 technique. These are guys that really can dominate. Chris Jones, right? But these guys can also, a lot of them have flexibility. They can kick inside. They can do different things. The Bills need, to me, whether it's a 3 technique or 1 technique, they need more of a space eater, stout point of attack guy. That's not really what Ogunjobi is. Ogunjobi is more in the mold of what they have, which is a penetrating 3 technique. Ed Oliver's a little undersized. This guy's 305. It sounds big. It's not really super big for a defensive tackle. So if you would have said to me the Bills are going to sign a DT yesterday, I think it happened after I jumped off with you guys. I would have said, oh, okay, they're getting someone that's, strong and big and long. That's really not what he is. He's a penetrator. I reached out to Arthur Moats, who played for the Bills, played for the Steelers. He now covers the Steelers. He said, penetrating 3 technique, he'll fit in well. He really has he's a good player. He can be productive. You talk to some other people in Pittsburgh, they say, look, he has some great moments, and then there's times where you wonder where he is, and he's disappeared. So I think they still have work to do. Don't forget they have Dwayne Carter on the roster. I don't think he's as much of a one technique, but he can reduce down and play there. Daquan Jones is your one technique right now. And people can say that's not enough, and I agree with that. But really, Daquan Jones is more of your one technique. They can put him there, and right now your DTs are Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Dwayne Carter, Larry Ogunjobi. You still have Zion Logan, Branson Dean, but they're going to need more at the position.
All right, we'll have to. That could be a draft conversation. We'll see though. There's still time maybe to do something else.
I would say it this way too, Joe. The draft has these guys, right? The draft has these guys. The question would be, can you draft someone to come in right away and make an impact with this group? Because I don't think this is the type of position where you can wait right now. You know? But the draft does have more of these guys than pretty much a lot of the other positions.
Right. If you draft a first round, let's say Grant is one of these guys. There's a bunch in the first round. You draft a giant one technique defensive tackle. You're thinking that guy it's him and Daquan Jones. Like my plan is those are the two that are going to play that spot for the entire year. And you would hope, at least, that the rookie could do that right away. All right.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, we also had news yesterday that Ed Oliver had his contract restructured, and they saved $10 million on the cap. So Ed Oliver was at times a frustrating player last year, but you need him to be better too. And we all know Ed needs to be kind of paired more with a bigger guy who can do his job than he can be more of a penetrator, right? So he's that guy along the defensive front who's the penetrating, undersized guy. So he cleared about $10 million. So we know he's coming back as well. Not that it was a question, but you need more from him as well.
All right, Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. So we'll leave you with this. What in the world does the buffering thing mean that James Cook posted on Instagram yesterday?
I have no idea. What are you talking about? This is the first I've heard of this. I'm not kidding you.
Perfect. There's nothing really to figure out. There's nothing to figure out anyway.
Last night was very frustrating watching both the Sabres and Syracuse basketball for me, so I was not dialed into James Cook's post on Instagram.
What a combo that's been this season. Syracuse basketball and the Sabres. He just tweeted like the loading or like the buffering screen, like a screenshot. That's it. So now everyone take your guess. What does it mean? James Cook, baby, for the spring. I'm good with it. Listen, at some point, maybe save it for like June and July if he's not signed yet, when there's not a lot happening for social media posts, but yeah. We might get some more of that.
Oh, my gosh.
Thank you, Sal.
That's funny. You got it.
Sal Capaccio on the West Her hotline. Yeah, that James Cook post from yesterday. Take your guess. Take your guess if you want it. When we come back, get into what's left on the free agent market. The corner and defensive tackle spots. I just kind of want to get to how free agency has gone and how it sets up the draft. Because at the moment, I think there are two positions we're going to be talking above all else for first-round pick, and then, 2 seconds, too. So where we're at with the Bills at the moment, the Players' Championship's underway. Also, if you got a Sabres rant in you from last night, feel free. Losing 7-3 is not new, but you got a guy with a concussion history getting beat on the ice while he's down by an AHLer. And your 5'9", 18-year-old is the one that's trying to get in there and help him. 803-0550 is the phone number. It's Jeremy and Joe here on WGR. Hey, it's Sneaky Joe DiBiase here for Roswell Park. Spring's in the air. I'm looking outside right now. We've had the sun, really, for like 3-4 consecutive days. So it's a perfect time to refresh and renew. We love spring. Not just your surroundings, but your spirit, too, as we ride the roller coaster of Buffalo weather. Even though it's getting a little better now, it's time to do something for your community. At Roswell Park's Donor Center, they are in need of blood and platelet donors. And they're always in need of platelet donors, especially. Just like the flowers that are blooming, your donation can bring new life and hope to local cancer patients. We're the city of good neighbors, and when you donate at the donor center, your donation stays right in the community at Roswell Park. They're not going to ship it off somewhere. It stays right at Roswell, helping cancer patients right in our backyard. Each donation offers strength for those that are battling for their lives, to chance to be a part of their journey, chance to offer hope when it is needed most. This spring, give the gift of life, donate blood or platelets at Roswell Park's Donor Center. Refresh your own sense of purpose and help us renew hope for our patients. Schedule your appointment today. You can call 1-800-ROSWELL if you want to do it over the phone, or check out their website, roswellpark.org/donate. The Roswell Park Donor Center, where hope blooms. Bills making some moves yesterday, trading Kaiir Elam to the Dallas Cowboys. They saved $2.5 million roughly on the cap by making that trade. They also get a 5th-round pick this year and a 7th-round pick next year. They had to include a 6th, though. So they trade up 1 round this season, and then they get a 7th next year. To some of their free agent signings, Demar Hamlin is back with the Bills on a 1-year deal, $2 million. Also, they've signed Derek Forrest, depth safety, who started 17 games for Washington over the last 4 years. Sabres lose last night 7-3 against the Detroit Red Wings. Josh Norris scored his first goal as a Sabre. The bench was almost empty by the end of the night as there were a bunch of scrums at the end of the game. They were handing out misconducts. Sabres lose 7-3. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
I understood the impact of getting an extension done, creating some cap space, and, it's kind of a weird situation where it's like I've had a big contract before and it doesn't really change how I live in my life, but I know that, again, this opens up some space for cap and signing some free agents. I think we've been having a pretty good free agent run so far.
Josh Allen speaking to the media yesterday on his new contract with the Bills via Zoom. Allen, yes, he did take $5 million less per year. When you look at that list of players, he also took $100 million more guaranteed than anybody else. So he got his money. He's good. He might have done it in a way that does help the Bills' cap. So maybe there was a trade-off there. Hey, you're not getting $60 million per year, so you can't go around saying you're the best player or highest paid player in the league. But in exchange for helping us do that and keep the cap lower, we're going to make a ton of the money guaranteed in comparison to the other guys. Maybe that's how it went. We don't really know, though, the cap number yet for Allen. Not yet. Those details have not been released. I'm sure they will sometime soon, but we'll see. 803-0550 is the phone number. Bills free agency. It's technically day 2. It's really day 4 because of Monday being the real unofficial opening of it. And as you heard Sal say last segment, maybe today we'll get some of those moves official, Joey Bosa and the rest, as they probably will fly to Buffalo first and then they'll do it. So what we have so far is the Bills filling their needs and filling holes on the roster that can help narrow what the draft board what for need is going to look like. Because defensive end, while they could still do that, and I feel like they could still pick a first-round player at a lot of these positions, but I don't feel like they anymore have to take a end high in the draft. If they walked into the season, let's play it this way, position by position, would you be okay with them going into the season with what they've got at defensive end? Bosa, Rousseau, Michael Hoyt, Epinesa, and Javon Solomon. I'd be okay with that. I'd like them to do better, Hendrickson or one more rookie, but I'd be okay if they went in with just those ends. Would you be okay if they went into the season with the receivers that they have right now? Josh Palmer and Curtis Samuel, I don't know why I'm doing it in this order, Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman. All right. I might not be okay with that. I bet majority be like, fine, you got your top 4. Maybe there's a depth signing somewhere in there. I don't need them to pick a first-round or second-round receiver, though. That's more the exercise. Running back, they're good. All the other offensive positions, they're good in this. Linebacker, they're good. But then you get to the 2 where I feel like the answer is definitively no. And that is defensive tackle. They signed Larry Ogunjobi, but he is a 3 technique. He is a smaller by his position standards. He is a pass rusher. He is someone that the Pittsburgh people are saying like lacks gap integrity and maybe leaves a little to be desired in the run game. So I've got him now with Ed Oliver and Dwayne Carter that are all that type of defensive tackle. And then for my big guy that I need to eat blocks up and hopefully also give me a little bit as a pass rusher, I want more than like when Star Lotulelei was here. He would eat up blocks and that was it. Non-factor in terms of rushing the passer. I would like to see them add a Marcel Darius type, the player. You know, I could use a version of that maybe isn't, sleeping through meetings and late all the time and maybe not taking the profession seriously enough. But that skill set, that combination of size and athleticism, they haven't had a guy like that really since Darius, I would say. Daquan Jones is maybe like he's, in that mold, but he's not dominant in that way. So I need another guy like that, and that could be first round or second round, but it's got to be somebody. Because I would say no right now. I would not take their defensive tackle group right now going into the regular season. And then the other one, which is the easiest of them, is corner. And I don't know that there's anything they could do right now that would take corner off the board for like round one or make it feel like it's not even the favorite. They could sign a defensive tackle the type that we just talked about in the next couple of days and feel like, all right, they still could draft one. It's a good draft at that class, but they don't really need to anymore. But they'd have to sign a guy like that. And to this point, they haven't. Corner, even if they brought back Rasul Douglas, or if they signed Stephon Gilmore back, or even if they did Asante Samuel Jr., I wonder what that contract would look like. The money will matter to this, and that's an obvious point here, is if you sign Asante Samuel Jr. to a 1 year, I don't know what his contract's going to look like. What's his market value at Spotrac? I should look. But if he signs a 1 year deal, he lacks the tackling and the size. They might say, yeah, we want to draft one anyway because we need one for the long term. But because they've got to pay Benford, the idea that they're going to pay another corner a big contract just doesn't seem all that likely.
Asante Samuel Jr. is an estimated average annual salary of $11.5 million.
Okay, so to me, I don't see them doing that. So if they did do that, though, sure, maybe that's the one guy left that could make us go, okay, maybe they don't need to invest in a highly drafted corner. Maybe it's just that guy, and that's if he even gets that. Which, okay, that seems fair enough. $11 million, that could be the number for him. But if it's Douglas or just some other veteran, I don't see them signing somebody that's going to rate enough to where corner isn't going to be the favorite. I think from now till the draft at the end of next month, if you ever see mock drafts or the odds that betting sites will put out on what position is favored by each team, that you're going to look and see corner a lot. On a lot of mock drafts and listed as the betting favorite for the Bills in round one. That we're setting up for a spring of the cornerback here leading into the draft. Again, I might want to say if they don't sign Asante Samuel Jr. We did have that rumor 2 days ago that they were getting close to signing him, but there's been nothing about that since. And it didn't come from one of the big insiders. So kind of want to not believe that at this point in time. 803-0550 is the phone number if you've got a thought on their biggest holes left and what's left to do here in free agency as the board dries up. The biggest names left on the board are former Bills. PFF's top 3 remaining free agents are Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, and Rasul Douglas. And I have no belief that they're going to sign either of the top 2 guys, obviously, Cooper or Diggs. And maybe they do get to Douglas, though. 803-0550, the phone number. It's Jeremy and Joe. I got a stat of the day for you that's kind of mind-blowing. on the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys haven't done something in a decade that you can't believe they haven't done it in 10 years. Get to that when we come back. Players' Championship underway as well. This is WGR. All right, here's an incredible stat of the day for you. Free agency week in the NFL. Stat of the day powered by Empire Electric, your residential neighborhood electrician. Visit empireelectricians.com. The Dallas Cowboys. You know what I should do actually very quickly? Let me make sure, because this was tweeted out 2 days ago. They didn't do anything yesterday, right? Of significance. They signed Javonte Williams, and that was like 1 year, $3 million.
And they traded for Kaiir Elam. Right. Okay, so this should still be true. Yep, okay. The Dallas Cowboys have not signed a free agent that makes more than $6 million per year since 2015. It's been 10 years since Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, who we got to kind of start treating them like the Bengals, I think. You know? They act kind of cheap, don't they? Or the way it's old school, at least. They have not signed a free agent of more than $6 million per year in a decade. That's wild. Not one guy, not a guard that makes $9 million a year, not a corner, nothing. Not a single player. It's almost unbelievable. I double-checked it, though, and I think it is right. And I trust the Twitter account that tweeted it out. So, yeah, 10 years since the Cowboys signed a guy of $6 million per year or more. It's funny, when you look at their, like, free agent tracker, everything is, like, re-signing. It's never, they never go out and get somebody. They always just bring the same people back.
And the reason I compare them to the Bengals is the way they do contracts. What the Bills do is they pay their guys early, and they get lower cap hits because of it. There's a benefit of the cap to paying your guys right away. The Cowboys wait till the last possible second, so that Dak Prescott right now has the highest cap hit in the NFL. I think it's $90 million. Well, it was $90 million. They probably restructured it. But he has the highest cap hit in the league because of how long they waited to pay him. And they're doing the same thing with Parsons right now. They just kind of did it with Lamb. And I don't know, man. Like, if they're not going after big-ticket free agents, I tweeted this yesterday. We got to take a break. That was a terrible trade they made with the Bills. They did the Bills a favor. If I were the Bills, I would have given the Cowboys a 7th-round pick to take Kaiir Elam. Like, I want the $2.5 million of cap space. Here, take him. And instead, the Cowboys actually gave them a trade-up in this year's draft and then a 7th-round pick last year. And I tweeted this, that right now, the GM to take advantage of in the NFL, the guy to take advantage of, you could get one over on him. Right now, it used to be Dave Gettleman. It used to be Dave Gettleman with the Giants. Right now, it's Jerry Jones. If I want to try to sneak one past a guy, I'm calling Jerry to do anything in the league right now. 803-0550 is the phone number. More on the Bills. Maybe I got more of that Sabres rant from earlier this morning in me. Samuelson and just not sticking up for guys again to the degree that you would want. I mean, he tried to run in there more than he did when the Thompson thing, but not much. It's Jeremy and Joe. This is WGR. New league year in the NFL. The Bills trading away Kaiir Elam to the Dallas Cowboys. They send a 6th with Elam to get a 5th this year and a 7th next year. So they move up around in this year's draft and they get a 7th on top of it. And more importantly than that, they get $2.5 million of cap space that they would not have received had they cut Elam. So the Cowboys do the Bills a favor on that front. In the safety room, Demar Hamlin is back on a 1-year, $2 million contract. The Bills are also reportedly signing safety Derek Forrest, who started 17 games for the Commanders over the last 4 years. The other signings not yet made official, probably will be once they get to Buffalo and officially sign the deal, Joey Bosa and others. Elsewhere around the NFL, we don't have an Aaron Rodgers resolution, and the rumors are that it could take some time. He's deciding between the Steelers and the Giants, with the Vikings on the outside looking in. Russell Wilson traveled to Cleveland. He's visiting with the Browns, potentially to go there. The Falcons picked up a $10 million bonus with Kirk Cousins. That indicates they're going to keep him. He met with the owner, asked to be traded to a team that would start him. They said no, and it seems that they're holding to that at this point. Cooper Kupp released by the Rams, and he'll begin talking to teams, or would have yesterday. The Seattle Times reporting that the Seahawks are in on Cooper Kupp and might even be the favorites to sign him at this point, keeping him in the NFC West. To hockey, the Sabres lose 7-3 last night to the Red Wings. Josh Norris did score the first goal of his Sabre career. Patrick Kane had 5 points, past Gilbert Perreault in the all-time NHL scoring list, 35th all-time with those points yesterday. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business.
Hey, good.
Be good! Come on! Come on, JJ! He's got it! He's got it!
I want to get the caddy's name. The caddy's name is J.J. Jakovac. Colin Morikawa's Looper, as they're known. Looper. A hole-in-one on 17 during the practice round at Sawgrass. And Morikawa was hyped. Everybody was hyped. Pretty great scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Players' Championship is started, right? It's underway?
It's underway. I'm watching it. I'm watching it. The sun is up. When the first 20 minutes of it, these poor guys had to tee off at 7:40 in the morning. I don't know how they saw. It was dark out still and super thick fog. And I don't even know who they were playing, so I don't have to feel too bad for them. But.
Well, joining us on the Western Hotline and covering the event, former morning show intern Kevin Price joins us in the Western Hotline. He's down at Ponte Vedra Beach, if I remember correctly. Kevin, is that right? Ponte Vedra Beach?
Absolutely, Ponte Vedra Beach. Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me. How are you?
We're good.
Morning.
We're good.
Yeah.
You were there on scene. Were you at 17 when Jakovac hit that hole-in-one?
No, I wasn't there. I was inside writing a different column, actually on a guy from Syracuse, Kevin Roy, which warmed the heart to be able to do. But no, you could almost hear from the media center, which is a few 100 yards away. And it's cool because this was the first ace in the history of the caddy competition, which has been around for 26 years. And it's one of the most fun things. I actually have been able to hit a couple shots in past years. A couple of players have brought me out, which has been super cool. But no holes in one until that. And you could hear it was just amazing seeing how excited they were. And like you said, Morikawa was probably happier than his caddy, JJ. And JJ used to play competitive golf. He was a 2-time Division II individual champion. So definitely plenty of game, but still, obviously to do that, it's insane.
So Kevin is there covering the event. Kevin, you've been all around, covered the PGA Tour for years, and, whether we're visiting with you at Oak Hill or getting a check-in wherever it goes, where do you rank Sawgrass on all the places that you're able to go? I mean, you're all over tour with this, traveling just about everywhere. So how high on the list is Sawgrass for you?
I'm definitely biased because I live here, and I get to play it in the summer, June, July, August. They let us play, which is amazing, and it's my favorite course on tour, just the combination of the shot values and how much the players love it and all the history here, and just the 16, 17, 18 finish is definitely so iconic, and 17 just stands alone, but just all throughout the course, whether it's hole 6, they just put in a new tree, so guys have to think about hitting like a low punch driver, and you have holes that like you have to fade your tee shot and then draw your second shot, and you can't, all the players say like it's the perfect execution test in the sense of professional golf. You have to prove that you can hit different types of shots, and combining that with the history and just the look and the fan experience. And I have friends from home that love coming down, and one friend that has come, I think, like 5 or 6 times just because he loves it so much. And yeah, the combination of the challenge and the fan experience and the vibe makes it my favorite on tour. And obviously it's hard to compare with most of the majors rotate around, so there's not like one singular venue. And then other than the Masters, it's the biggest tournament we have that you go back to every year. So I just love it. Absolutely love it.
So are you team, you're good with the tree that they put back in there on hole 6 that everyone's got to like run their ball under?
I love it. I mean, I hit the ball low anyway, so I wouldn't need to adjust my tee shots too much. But for the pros, it was funny because Davis Love the third, a 2-time Players Champion, he was talking about how he would always tell the commissioners and people at the tour to remove the tree, and they never listened, and eventually they removed it, and now he was part of the redesign or the restoration to bring the tree back, so it all came full circle. But just anything that can cause the players to think, and I mean, so much on tour these days, the setups can be pretty vanilla in the sense of you can just hit driver everywhere, and there's not really too much trouble, and if you're close enough to the green, the guys will just take their chances with the wedge. So to have anything in the way off the tee to think about, which just so many holes, I mean, I just go down. Stuff comes into play on 7, comes into play on the second shot on 9. It's just again and again you have to think about trees throughout the course. So 6 is a perfect illustration of that.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I'm thinking if we want to get really deep on course design and the mental side of the game, to me, Kevin, 6 is almost like a perfect pair with 17, where 17 is not a 200-yard par 3. It's not 230. We see those on tour sometimes. It's a very hittable shot, but the shot before you take it is in your head. And like 6 would be that too. Yeah. I read that nobody's ever hit the tree, but it's still there. Like it's just the mental side of standing on that tee box and thinking like, all right, it kind of gets to the point about execution there. And 17 is very similar as well. That might be a small green to hit, and some guys hit it but don't hold it. But again, like I really think so much of that is about what goes on between the ears on that hole.
17, oh, totally. And like you said, with 17, that's a shot where if there's no water, it's not anything. It's a nondescript hole. It's probably playing to a 2.6 scoring average, probably one of the easiest holes on tour. But you get that water and you get a little wind and you're worried about chunking it or sculling it, and it just messes with your mind. And every year you see a couple guys fall victim to that hole, even in the toughest conditions. And then on hole 6, I bet you someone's going to hit the tree this year. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like, in this day and age, equipment, obviously, it's so much better. But I think of Aldrich Potgieter, this young 20-year-old who hits it so far, and he just topped the ball into the water at Bay Hill last week. And Scheffler isn't immune to the shank from time to time. And I think someone will hit it. And it'll be great. It's good entertainment. But I think just having that, no matter what it is. I mean, I go back to Bobolink, where I grew up playing. And number 16 is like this 100-yard par 3, but there's a tree that gets in on the right side, so you have to worry. And in my mind, it's almost like I have to cut a sand wedge. It's funny, my mind just went right there. But no, anything with those elements, it's just a great little twist in golf.
You're making me almost mad thinking about the tree at 16 on Bobolinks. If you know, you know. Like, unless you're a lefty. If you're a lefty, then you're perfect. You don't have to deal with it. Oh,
it's the worst. 100 yards, and I feel like I hit that tree like every third time I play it.
Yep.
And I've played that course 1,000 times. Like, I grew up right down the street. Too. That's my home course. Yep.
Listen, those of us that spend time at the links at Skidjackwooda Meadows, Delaware Country Club, we know how to hit over trees. There's a couple holes, number 2, number 3.
This isn't though
18.
Like this isn't.
18's got a big tree in the middle of the fairway.
See, this is more like the one you're talking about, like Delaware, where like there's a tree in front of the green. You have a lot of space to hit it over.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the tree here, where you have to think about it off the tee box. It's because it's only 10 yards in front of you, but it's hanging over, so you've got to almost.
You have to hit a fade or you have to hit a low shot, which, we're not the guys on the Players' Championship. But anyways.
It's not often you get to have this. This is an honor for me to have this whole 16 at Bobolink versus hole 6 at the Players parallel. It's just incredible. No, and I'm going to go out to 6 today for sure and take a look at it. And if someone hits the tree, I will report back for sure.
Very good. Kevin, I want to ask you a question about the field. Who is on the clock? And by that I mean, I'm thinking about Ludwig Oberg winning the Genesis as this guy's really good, he should win by now, and then he gets that's his biggest win. This is not a major, so the majors, the conversation is elevated a bit. But is there any name you're thinking, it's time for insert name here. He's been good enough. He's knocking on the door. Getting a win here would make him more of a household name than he is right now.
It's an interesting question, and there's different levels to it because, Hovland hasn't won a big tournament, but he's pretty much a household name, so he wouldn't be in that category. And then you go down to a guy like Cameron Young, who has a ton of runner-up finishes. He's never won a tour event, but he has a ton of power. He's got a great game where he can really overpower courses and get on a roll if he can kind of get over that hump of getting a win and the floodgates could open. So, yeah, and he's someone who I think if he were to win the Players, he could have a lot of upside. And then recency bias, but a guy like Russell Henley, who won last week at Bay Hill to move to number 7 in the world. I guess I'll stick on Henley for this question as I was thinking out loud because he's in his mid-30s, but one of the cool things about golf is you can peak at any really era. You see guys, Vijay Singh peaked around 40, and Henley isn't someone who overpowers the course at all. He's one of the shortest hitters, but he's just so accurate, kind of like a modern-day Fred Funk in a way, but a little longer and probably a little better. Fred Funk, who won the Players 20 years ago, and I think if Henley were to win this week, which I think he could have a chance to get on that next level of names where people start to talk about him and know about him. But it's such a good question because you think of Tony Finau, another guy who's been knocking on the door. Not that he's been playing so well lately. That's such a great question because there's so many guys. Sepp Straka even, who's played in the Ryder Cup for Europe, and he's had a few wins, but he's not. It's actually a good. I think that's my best answer yet. I just rattle off. That's such a good question. But he leads the cup, and people don't really know who he is. He's pretty anonymous. But if he wins this, he could take that leap.
Running through the names, I'm just going through the favorites. Thinking about guys like Justin Thomas, who kind of lost his game and appears to be a little bit back. A win would kind of put a stamp on that for him. Or, up and down the board, just Wyndham Clark. Guys that are there's guys that haven't won, and then there's guys that maybe want to start the year on a good note because this is kind of we had the Genesis, we've had a couple of big events, but long referred to as the 5th major for guys that are looking to go down in history. You can make it about Rory and his drought. You can make it about Scheffler and his early season dominance. Do you get the sense that players treat this not only like an elevated event and 5th major in finger quotes there, but also as like the Daytona 500 almost? Here it is. Let's have a good year.
Absolutely, and you hit the nail on the head. It's funny. There's always a lot of chatter, and we're guilty of this at the tour of trying to market the Players as the gold standard and the flagship event and all this stuff. And we can go overblown at times, but in reality, just the history of it and with golf being so history-based and being able to compare and thinking of Tiger winning in 2001 and better than most and Hal Sutton and Be the Right Club today, even back to Jack Nicklaus winning 3 times. It's an event that kind of is a good comparative tool across history. So players feel that. They know this is a tournament that when they look back at their career, it's not a major, but it's, the next best thing in terms of individual win, and one that, if you win the Players, it's on that kind of top of your resume right up there, just a bit below the majors. And it's one where if you win, you can really springboard the year, a.k.a. Scotty Scheffler last year, who won here and then won the Masters, won Olympic gold, had one of the best seasons in, non-Tiger, really, of the modern era. So it can really get you going.
I'll throw Tommy Fleetwood's hat in the ring for this because he still does not have a PGA Tour win. And what's he got, 7? I think he's got 7 major top 5s in his career, and he's finished top 5 in the Players.
I was asking players yesterday. I was just doing something for a story that I haven't written, but I might, on what players think, who they think's the best player without a PGA Tour win. And too many people were saying Fleetwood that I had to change the question mid interviews to say who's the best that you've played with, just to get some other names, because Fleetwood, he's to a man. People see him as the best player without a win. It's kind of crazy he hasn't won. I mean, a couple years ago at the Canadian Open, Nick Taylor made a 70-footer in a playoff to beat him. He's done everything he could but win, and with all the major contention too, it's just kind of wild he hasn't won on tour. And he's someone who, if he won this week, that would, like you said, another guy that would bolster his star power significantly.
Kevin Price, how's the forecast look for the week? Are we in the clear?
We should be good. You never know for sure. I think March is interesting because we moved back to March for this tournament a few years ago, and I think it plays better in March. It just can get a little too soft in May, and the grass is different and not as complex to hit out of just with the overseed. But I think now you can get some nasty lies, which is always fun. And it rained earlier in the week, but it's pretty dry now. The course just dries out so well, and I think it might get a little dicey on Sunday, but I'm hoping that's wrong. It's not a sure thing, but it's looking good. We're in for a great week of weather. It's beautiful today. It's low 60s right now, but Sunday could be a little dodgy. But knock on wood, hopefully we'll be good.
Very good. Well, Kevin, thanks for the time. Enjoy the tournament, and we'll talk again later in the golf season.
Love it. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Orchard Park native and former morning show intern down there at TPC Sawgrass for the Players. Who's got the early lead, Joe?
I believe Bo Hostler has 2 under through a couple.
Hold on 1 second. Let me try something here.
Oberg is 1 under right now.
Can you tell me?
Matsuyama is 2 over already and just hit it in the water. So he's.
I was just about to ask you. Could you find someone for me that is 1 over through the first hole?
Oh yeah.
Here we go. Matthew Fitzpatrick, 1 over through 1.
Yeah.
Why am I asking that?
Yeah. Because you were 1 over through 1?
Because I parred number 1. Sorry, Matthew Fitzpatrick. Sorry, Matt Fitzpatrick. Can't relate.
Wow.
And after that, it was not good. But I parred 1.
But you parred 1. Yeah. Should have quit right then and there.
You know what? Maybe I should have. It did not go well.
I mean, this. So Keith Mitchell also is 2 over through 2, and there's a video of his second shot of the day. His second shot of the day, he was in the fairway, so shot 1 went well. He's got a wood in his hand, and he swings, and he immediately grabs it and slams it on the ground like he's Happy Gilmore trying to break the club in half. Dude, your round just started. Must have been they didn't even show where the shot ended up, so it must have been horrible. Yeah, but golf can do that to you. But usually it takes some time, right? Usually you don't get the club slamming until the back 9.
Spieth just 2-hopped one into one of the holes.
Oh, I bet he slammed a club too. Oh wait, into the hole. Into the hole.
Yeah, into the hole. Yeah,
eagle for Spieth. Spieth's another one that we should have mentioned with Kevin. Win sometime soon. He competes a lot, and he is a roller coaster. He's Jordan Spieth as a professional athlete or a professional figure in sports.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anybody that is more consistently the thing that they are than Jordan Spieth, which is chaos.
Uh-huh.
Every tournament, you're like, oh, let's see what's going on with Spieth. Oh, he's hitting it left-handed from behind a bush. Oh, and he got up and down for par. Oh, yeah. Okay. And the next hole, triple bogey, and then bounce one in for eagle. I mean, it's a ton of fun.
Is he the George Pickens of golf?
Maybe. Yeah. Who are the most volatile producers in sports?
Draymond Green.
Okay.
Metcalf. You get 2 Steelers
DK
receivers.
Metcalf.
Who are the most volatile producers?
Like emotionally, but yeah.
Yeah.
Who's a fantasy football player, you'll get this, that is 20 points, 1 point. 20 points, 1 point. Because that's Spieth.
Right. That is, that had been Gabe Davis for a while.
Oh, all right.
That had been Gabe Davis. That's is that insulting to Spieth, though, a little bit, if I call him Gabe Davis?
Yeah, maybe.
But in fantasy context, yeah, that was him.
803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. So, Aaron Rodgers. I love
the kind of holding both of these teams' feet to the fire. Like, hey, you guys are both desperate. Come pay me. Give me. I want a big contract. Not like long term, but I want big money. You don't have anybody. Do it. Go ahead. What are you going to do otherwise? Pittsburgh. You're gonna bring Russell Wilson back. You might not get him. He's in Cleveland right now. So I don't know. Like, he might feel like he's gonna drag this out because he thinks one of them's gonna blink and give him like $48 million or something.
48.
That was just a number.
Yeah, you might be right. 803-0550. All right.
Meanwhile, he's on a beach taking
a cold beach, though. A beach with a blanket.
Yeah. Well, unless he's just doing it for the look of it. Rodgers. There's also the Vikings thing. The Vikings are looking at him. And there was also that he's intrigued by the Vikings. Which, would he not do that, though, just because he's literally doing the Brett Favre?
I guess.
Packers, the Jets. Jets doesn't work. Let me go to Minnesota.
I can't imagine the Vikings doing that. Why you would even consider it. I mean, the Steelers and the Giants are desperate. The Giants are probably more desperate because let's look at the head coaches. You've got Brian Daboll and Mike Tomlin. And Daboll might have one more year to prove he can be a coach in the NFL. And Tomlin, if he has his first ever losing season, he can either A, retire, or B, just get another job in 5 minutes if Pittsburgh moved on from him. So wouldn't you think Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are more desperate than Mike Tomlin? And the name of the Pittsburgh GM escapes me right now. Is
it Kevin Colbert? Why is that name? I don't know who that is, actually.
It is Omar Khan. Thank you.
Omar Khan.
Yes.
Kevin Colbert was their GM before.
Yes.
He got their last GM. Yeah, maybe. I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if part of what he's deciding between right now is, and maybe this report about the thing about the Steelers thought he was going to be cheap, is the Giants are desperate, and maybe they're offering him a good amount, and he wants to go to Pittsburgh, but he can't get the Steelers to give him the same number. It's just something that could be happening right now because he knows the Giants are more desperate, so he's telling Pittsburgh, they're more desperate, but I need you to act the same. I need you to give the same amount that they would.
If you're Rodgers, which is the better landing spot?
If I'm Rodgers,
if you are Rodgers,
the better landing spot is
on one hand, you got New York, which is you could probably stay in the same apartment if you haven't gotten rid of it yet.
Right, you have to move.
You're in the same city. You might have a whole city hating you instead of just half a city if it goes poorly. You got neighbors, and your offensive line maybe not so good. Like the Steelers are definitely a better roster, right?
They've
got good enough weapons. I feel like Pittsburgh is the better spot. How about your competition, your chance to win? It's definitely the Giants, is it not? Because aren't there
both divisions are pretty tough. You got two.
That's right.
Two great teams around you in each division. In the North, it would be the Ravens and the Bengals, and then in the East now it's Philly and Washington.
Yeah, you're right.
So you might say competition's equally as difficult. Although if you go conference overall, the NFC is definitely still not. By quarterback standards, it's not as good.
By quarterback standards, but by rosters, I think the NFC is the stronger conference now.
By roster?
You've got a couple. I mean, if you look at Washington and Philadelphia just on roster, Detroit on roster, the Bears have improved a ton, even though they haven't done anything with it yet.
Minnesota's roster is great.
Minnesota, Green Bay. Mm-hmm. You have some good teams over there. I don't think it's as lopsided as it was, but again, the quarterback conversation is still pretty tilted to the AFC.
Yeah, I could listen to that.
We'll get a break in. 803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. It's a sunny and chilly Thursday morning. As we head to the weekend, it's going to be just real nice. Looking at a real nice weekend. Parade, right? We got the parade coming up.
You got the parade, and the weather's going to be great for it. Love the St. Patrick's Day parade.
I've not gone in a while.
What's a while? Is that like pre-COVID, or are we talking like a decade?
I'm going to go maybe a decade.
All right.
Maybe a decade.
You don't like green? You got a problem with green beer or something?
No. I just haven't gone to the St. Patrick's Day parade in a long time. Joe, that's a life I used to live. And now
you're over it?
I mean,
if you don't do the parade and you're not like going out for St. Patrick's Day, then St. Patrick's Day is kind of a non-event. Right?
Or you could go and have some corned beef and cabbage and you still have a good time.
That's the thing I don't need on St. Patrick's Day. I don't need corned beef.
Oh, you don't like it?
Keep it. More for you.
Oh, Corned beef is pretty good.
No, I'll have wings.
All right, 803-0550. We might have a special guest coming up. We'll see how it goes.
Ooh.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So stay tuned on WGR.
Here's McLeod, sends it across for a shot, rebound, scores! Benson gets the rebound, and a power play goal for the Sabres. Have them back within one. It is 4-3 Detroit.
Zach Benson. Nice game for him amidst a Sabres loss to the Detroit Red Wings. Next up, who's coming in town next, Joe? Nobody I recognize. I don't see any familiar names on that list over there.
Next on the schedule?
Yeah. I don't think it's anybody big. Nobody important.
It's Vegas.
Oh.
On Saturday, huh?
Oh, it's the...
Has he been back since the hat trick?
It's the Olofsson revenge game, of course. Oh, has Olofsson been back? I'm not sure.
Olofsson, who I got to believe that this has got something to do with his line. Or actually, no, it isn't. I want to know what it looks like. Matt Larkin, Daily Faceoff, did an article yesterday on who the best defensive forwards in the league have been this year. And some of them being like slept on. And number 3 on his list, who I saw, he's like 5th in what goals above replacement for defense or whatever, and like stick checking, efficiency, whatever, a bunch of advanced numbers. Olofsson is like number 3. That his defensive impact is somehow elite this year. When has anyone seen anything in his career that would have told you that he's a good defensive player? But he's been on the top line with Eichel and Stone, so maybe I'm sure that has to be the biggest reason why. But again, he's on the top line.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, before we get back to hockey, potentially, you said in the last segment that is anyone more what they are more consistently than Jordan Spieth? Jordan Spieth, hole 1, eagle. Hole 2, birdie. Hole 3, fighting with a rules official right now about his lie.
There you go.
That's Jordan Spieth, baby.
That sounds like Jordan Spieth, yeah. 803-0550, our phone number. We've got a caller who called in to follow up from something yesterday. Jay is on the line. Yesterday we got to talking about Chris Pronger because he's tweeting at Sabres fans and at Sabres accounts, and we're just kind of playing around with the idea that does he want to be the GM? And in his Wikipedia, there's a story that Pronger, as a rookie, got in a bar fight in Buffalo. And Jay messaged me that he was there for that. So, Jay, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, so you were at this bar fight?
Yeah, it was at Networks, Jim Kelly's old club. Jeremy, they may predate you a little bit, but I'm not sure if any of you guys remember that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was absolutely hilarious. Pronger was there with obviously several other Whalers players, and Pronger being 19, nobody knew who Chris Pronger was at that time, but you could see from, some of his arrogance, they were just being jerks there and grabbing girls, hitting on, basically every girl that walked by him. And it looks basically what I think that happened is they picked on the wrong girl with the wrong boyfriend, and a huge fight started. A little melee started within Networks, and they actually chased Pronger and a couple other Whalers players into the main place mall because that was one of the other entrances. He's had the outside entrance, which was absolutely hilarious, dude. Yeah. And at that point, nobody knew what was going on. The bouncers came and actually finally apprehended Pronger and I think maybe 2 or 3 other Whalers guys. Police came, they arrested him. It was, classic Buffalo, man.
Yeah.
It's just don't come into our hometown, act like you're abuse our women. There's going to be repercussions when that happens too. So it was very interesting. Networks was a great time, but yeah, I believe he got arrested for underage drinking, trespassing, all kinds of stuff they hit him with.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for this story. Yeah. So, you've given us some of the details. I went ahead and I searched it, and I found the story at the Los Angeles Times archives. And here it is, 6 Whalers, including Captain Pat Verbeek, star rookie Chris Pronger, suspended for their involvement in a barroom brawl. The NHL reversed the decision of team owner Richard Gordon. Bettman rescinded suspensions pending the outcome of an investigation. But, yeah, it's Verbeek, Jeff Sanderson, Mark Potvin, Mark Jansen, Todd Harkins. They were all supposed to be suspended for the game against the Sabres. I guess they were out on a Wednesday, and they brawled that night. So the story in the LA Times does say it was the bar. It was Kelly's network. And they were arrested at 3:55 a.m.
So Bettman stepped in and reversed a team suspension?
I believe that's what the story says. Wow,
that is strange.
They were suspended. The NHL reversed the decision of the team owner.
Yeah, when? I mean, this is 1994, so...
Yeah, right.
When do you see that, though? That is very weird.
I guess it's because then NHLPA president, maybe Bob Goodenow, he's quoted in this story as executive director. The reaction of the club was inappropriate, that there was no curfew that night for them. There would have been a curfew the next night, but that night the team was already in town and had no curfew. The owner of the team suspended Pronger for the rest of the season after that fight.
Wow.
But again, the league stepped in and said that's not appropriate. So
that's okay.
What a story.
I
Thanks,
mean,
Jake.
the rest of the season makes it even wilder.
I guess so.
And then he was gone in a year.
Can you imagine that now? A team owner coming in and suspending a 19-year-old rookie for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Remember, it is March, so maybe it's late in the year.
Yeah, imagine the Sabres suspended, just hypothetically speaking, they suspend Zach Benson because he won't stop playing video games for the season.
Right.
And then Bettman goes, no, what are you guys doing? Stop. That's reversed. It would have to be that egregious, maybe.
Network's one of those things. Sal's texting us about how he had been to Network once and saw Mogilny there.
Okay. I think I've heard stories too about players being out. I didn't know the name of the place, but but that you would see Sabre players out a lot. Yeah.
That's funny.
Pronger, by the way, so maybe he might have took it to heart though. He was gone in a year.
You left Hartford?
He went from Hartford to St. Louis.
Maybe they traded him because young kid, out drinking, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, probably. And then
bad for the culture.
And then he became a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
He became a Hall of Famer.
803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550 if you'd like to join us. St. Patrick's Day on the way.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember St. Patrick's Day falling on the same day as the NCAA selection show.
Ooh, that's...
These weekends kind of go hand in hand. Sometimes St. Patrick's Day weekend is the weekend of that. Sometimes St. Patrick's Day weekend is, because, it's on the 17th, and this weekend is the 14th, 15th, or whatever, 15th, 16th. And, yeah. This week it's going to be conference tournaments instead.
Yeah, and then this Sunday, obviously, right? Selection Sunday? This Sunday? Are you into the smaller conference tournaments? Because I'm kind of getting into it a little bit this year, and I've never done that before. But I don't know. Some of the games I've seen have been good, and they've been in passing. And also, I will be honest, when you're at the golf simulator, and it's just like, well, what's on?
Yeah.
What's on these days? You either watch, a midweek hockey game, or there's the Missouri Valley Conference Championship is on. All right, sure, I'll do that instead.
Yep.
See which one of them makes the tournament. I don't remember who was playing. Montana? No, that wouldn't have been. That would be Big Sky, the Big Sky Conference Championship.
So there's also, I saw this, and we'll get you this story as we're on college basketball for a minute. There is a interesting plan. John Rothstein, college basketball reporter, writer, he's Mr. College Basketball, one of them. Mm-hmm. He wants to make the first 4 exclusively for the last 8 at-large teams. Basically making those 8 teams that have to get their way in by winning on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
That if you win your conference, you can't go to those games. Those have to be at-large bids.
Okay. That would make those teams bigger conference teams then, wouldn't it?
Yes. So they're already talking about expanding to 76 teams.
Jeez.
Yeah. But he says keep it at 68 and have those last 8 teams fighting for those final 4 spots all be at-large bids, which I think that's fine. I think that's right.
I would be more into it, I think, if it worked that way, right? That would often mean, I think, that you're going to get more teams that would be fighting for an 11 seed if they got through.
Yes.
Rather than, and you have 2 of those already usually, but that would eliminate the most irrelevant games to me in sports are the Dayton. We're going to Dayton, Ohio for the first 4, and we're calling it the NCAA Tournament. And I've got 2 16 seeds fighting for the right to get smashed by 80 in the next game. If you get 2 11 seeds in there that are bigger conferences, then I could get behind the meaning of the game. I think a lot easier as a casual college basketball fan.
I'll go the other way on it, not disagreeing, but on, let's say you're some Cinderella story that wins the Mountain West and your automatic bid is getting in the tournament. I don't think that a team like that should be going on Tuesday and not actually making the tournament. I mean, I know they get to keep playing, but yeah, Only at large in those final 8 spots sold. John Rothstein's got me convinced that they should make that a rule. And, they're talking about going to 76. So,
76.
How do we do the numbers on that? That means there are 16 teams that go on Tuesday and Wednesday to then play on Thursday and Friday. So the opening round of the tournament would be 6 consecutive days. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be the opening, run.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
By the way, today, St. Bonaventure, 11:30. First game of the Atlantic 10 tournament for them. Are they the only ones in the tournament? Of the local 4? I think they are.
Syracuse season came to a merciful end last night.
Oh yeah, that was a bad season, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit bad.
How did it end? It was conference tournament. Everyone
they
makes
lost
it?
by 20 to SMU.
Sweet. ACC classic powerhouse SMU.
Yes.
What a world.
They lost by 20 to the 6th seed in the ACC tournament. Not a good year. All right. The close of the show, Extendo Sports, coming up. We're back tomorrow. But top of the hour, it's the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show. We'll wrap things up. We got a little more to get to here before we're out of here. Jeremy and Joe, give us a ring if you want. We still have a little time. 803-0550 on WGR. So yesterday, 2 days ago, maybe 2 days ago, yeah, you told me a story about not quite cheating, but a scandal in high school basketball about holding onto the ball too long.
Stall
and all that,
ball.
Right?
Yep.
Stall ball. All right. You ready for the next scandal?
Okay.
Ski jumping.
But that's a sport.
Cheating by Norway team officials manipulating ski suits. 2 Olympic gold medalists had denied involvement since the allegations emerged over the weekend. They were suspended and put under formal suspicion in an investigation overseen by the International Ski and Snowboard Federation. They cannot compete in a World Cup event in Oslo that starts today. They've been disqualified from a large hill event on Saturday. They're both backed by the Norwegian team, insisting they knew nothing about deliberately altered ski suits. The scandal has shocked the ski jumping world.
Yeah. The alteration is what again?
So team officials manipulated pre-approved and microchipped suits to increase their size and improve aerodynamics to help the athletes fly further.
And they're not allowed to do that?
No, you can't have wings on your ski suit when you're jumping off a ski jump.
Shouldn't they allow wings?
I mean, if you really want, as long as everybody's allowed wings, then you can do that.
Yeah.
It was revealed in footage secretly filmed from behind a curtain sent to a whistleblower in international media. Oh yeah,
that's deep. It's right after the cheating scandal in hockey with Aaron Ekblad, PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, which I guess we're sensitized to it right now, right? Like it's just someone did PEDs in sports. We've seen that a million times.
Just a banned substance, yeah.
Yeah, like there's no shock value to it anymore. Although I wonder, so this is defending champions too. Like a guy got caught doing steroids, basically.
Yeah.
Is there any hockey player that could have happened to? Like if Barkov had been caught, would it be any different? Would we be saying, do we need to put an asterisk on the Panthers season? Or is there
Ovechkin had.
If McDavid had won and he did it. But it's like maybe it's only a couple guys.
Who's the last Bills player to get suspended for this that's not weed? Remember when the league used to suspend guys for weed? And that just stopped?
Remember the league basically derailed Josh Gordon's career because he smoked weed? He
had a lot of addiction problems. But the league used to, embarrass itself and its own players by testing for weed and suspending guys for weed, and now they just don't.
Yeah. There were a couple guys. I think didn't Tyrell Dodson? See, this is one where I don't even want to. Maybe I shouldn't mention names on knowing 100% because I don't want to attach anyone's name to PEDs if they didn't do PEDs. But there have been a couple. I feel like over the years.
Right. All right. Back tomorrow on a Friday. Enjoy the Players' Championship. Enjoy some sunshine. High today about 50 and 52. Now seeing a high 52. Tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday 65, 65, 62. Let's go. Get those golf group chats going. The Players this weekend's going to get you, antsy. Enjoy my Sawgrass bag tag one more time before we leave.
Before we leave, it wasn't Tyrell Dodson. It was Andre Smith. Different Bills linebacker. 6 games for PEDs in 2022.
I just forgot who that is altogether.
I want to make sure I got that in. Dodson did not.
All right. Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show coming up.